How do I not completely screw up my relationship with my wife of 9 years after she has told me she doesn't love me anymore? I'm hoping the hive mind can help. Just over a month ago, my wife told me she didn't love me anymore and didn't see a future with me. She'd been keeping her unhappiness a secret from me for a good few years, and on the surface things were overall pretty good, although it had been clear there was a something for some time. I just never considered it was a me thing, and to such an extent. We've been together 12 years and married 9. I love and adore her and there's nothing I wouldn't do for her. A lot of the big decisions and events in our lives have been defined by my no's. As anyone with anxiety knows, it can be a harsh mistress and often my no has been much more about the knee-jerk than the reality. She has been asked a couple of times to move for work, and I've resisted. I have been inward-gazing and probably a barrier to a lot. She's become increasingly isolated, lonely and frustrated. I just never knew. And if I had have known it was having such an effect on her, I would have very quickly done whatever I could have done to save things. My wife is someone who doesn't talk about feelings, and it's this as much as anything which kept her unhappiness a secret. She lost a parent in tragic circumstances a few years ago and never dealt with that either. Our conversation broke my heart, and, temporarily, my brain. I felt it as grief and spent 3 weeks crying. Even now, just over a month later, I can oscillate wildly on any given day depending how the wind flows. After a period of madness on my part, panic, tears, grand gestures, and look, I'm doing the things you said were a problem that I wasn't. We agreed to stay together until the end of the year. She says it's a long road back and despite the period since the conversation being very civil, very loving in a lot of ways, and very open and possibly even the closest it's been in years, she says she feels nothing. I feel as though there's more going on than just her falling out of love with me, although I of course understand that can happen. I think she's being very resolute and very hardened in her position so she doesn't have to talk about feelings or risk hurting me again, and for me, the specter of her grief about her parent is undoubtedly in the background. There's no hard feelings, we both say, and although my wife has some things she's angry about, it doesn't seem to me there's enough to break apart a 12-year relationship. We don't have kids but we have 3 adored pets, who will likely have to split up if we split up, and a home we own. I'm asked often if I'm angry she didn't tell me earlier or that she told me she loved me for this past part of our lives and didn't mean it, and I'm not. I understand that people only know what they know, and she didn't know how to tell me. I don't believe it was deliberate, and I don't believe there's someone else. I hope to be forgiven for the things I didn't know until recently and am now scrambling to remedy, and I have to offer that same forgiveness to her. As it stands, if she were here, she'd tell you there's no conflict in her mind and certainly outwardly, she doesn't communicate any feelings other than her guilt and her care of me when I'm sad. This is a long way to a question. We have agreed to give us until the end of the year. My brain is becoming more rational, and I've only really recently been able to think and feel like I need to give her mental and physical space, including stopping doing things for her that might otherwise have been taken for granted. Essentially, I really want her to open up and be able to see that there might be more going on than just things between her and I. I'm prepared to be proven delusional, but something doesn't quite add up and I think I have become a place to park an awful lot. How, Reddit, do I best give her space and yet be present enough to show her I'm someone she can be with? I'm in 2 types of personal therapy as of very recently to try and help through this, and we have just started couples work together. This is very, very hard, and my stress levels are through the roof, and I've dropped a clothes size in 4 weeks. Any help would be enormously appreciated. Comment. I have watched my entire life, my mother's life be defined by my dad's nose. That one hit me very personally. I swear I actually think you could be my dad other than no kids and age difference. My 2 main things of advice are simply, don't force her or compel her to stay if she doesn't want to. And secondly, if you truly love her and can handle it, let her solely make the decisions in her life. Let her choose the trips, friends, careers, that she wants. If you can go along for the ride, great. If you can't, then this relationship shouldn't continue for both of your sake. Anxiety is a hell of a thing, and it caused my dad to shut down literally everything my mom ever wanted or dreamed. So I say, either you are willing to be a passenger on her journey, or you both need to take different paths. It is not fair to you that she didn't communicate, but communication itself could be blocked because of your anxiety. If communication isn't possible between you two about these feelings, then that's a sign of the relationship being over also. Fight like hell, but don't be afraid to realize the battle isn't worth the costs. Good luck, soldier. Up until now, how have you prioritized her? It sounds like it has been a relationship about you. And, as I am assuming you really want to think about things differently, why would she communicate with you? Your world was about you. I am 100% certain that she has long ago given up on the idea of being heard. So why try? You say if she had asked differently, you would have gone along. Did you ever ask, would it make you happy if I came along? I think she gave up on the idea that you were ever going to invest in her. I would have. She should not have been in a position of having to beg for you to care. Think you both need marriage counseling and to communicate and talk more. Try to understand what is really bothering her and why. Try to bring some fun elements to it. Maybe play a marriage game or any game that asks questions about things so you can really get to know each other more. You need to really take to heart some of the things she's already told you and talk with each other about what would be an appropriate response for both. We all have parts. There is a part of her that believes her happiness is outside of being married to you. That part is currently winning, and she's said, I no longer love you, which I am guessing means I no longer find happiness and joy in loving you. Treat her like a good friend that you care about. Doesn't need to be dramatic. People can part with dignity and respect, which you seem to have for her. If our partner isn't happy with us, chances are we aren't happy either. Of course other things are playing a role in why she's saying and doing this now. Still, she's decided and there's no point in convincing her otherwise. It is sad, but it's also the truth of where she is. There may come a time when she sees she put her unhappiness on you, but you are the last person in the world that she will hear that from. Unfair to be sure, but this is how relational trauma unfolds. Happiness is in your future, as you seem evolved enough to own your part. That is hard to find. Perhaps you could schedule date nights and try to romance her again. After a long marriage, a couple tends to take each other for granted. It might be that the two of you need a holiday together or spend some time wooing each other again. I would also suggest that you know what her love languages are, because most likely when women say they fall out of love, it's because they feel neglected. Pretend you're not married. Get back to dating her. To courting her. Your issues unfortunately aren't uncommon and generally do a ton of damage before/if the person figures it out. My only advice, and this is not easy nor guaranteed, is to reinvent yourself. She's lost interest/love/passion for you. Give her a different, improved you. From scratch. Good luck. Next story 2. My family won't stop ridiculing me in front of my husband for the things I did to make him notice me, and I feel so embarrassed. To give some context, I met my husband when I was in my first year of college because I had moved to my uncle's, 49M, city to go to college, and since he was my only family member nearby, I spent a lot of time with him and therefore with his friend as well, and I'm gonna be 100% honest, I kind of became obsessed with him in an unhealthy way. I did thousands of things to get his attention, all without success. I spent years trying to make him jealous or stupid things like that, and they were hard years for me because I really was in love, but it was not reciprocated, and my family knew it, and for them me doing humiliating things to get a man's attention was always fun. When I started dating my husband, they told as many jokes about it as they could, and at first I didn't care, but not anymore. Now their jokes make me feel so embarrassed and make me feel like a fool, and I know I deserve it because I was such an idiot when I was young, but I can't turn back time. And I don't want them to make my husband feel bad with those jokes, because they had never said them in front of him until a few days ago. I gave birth 2 months ago, and my husband and I decided that for the first few weeks we wouldn't have anyone in our house because we wanted to spend that time alone with our daughter, so my family didn't meet her until a few days ago, and it was not a pleasant visit at all. They started saying that they couldn't believe my obsession had gotten so far to the point of having a daughter, and even named a couple of things I did to get my husband's attention in the past, and I'm not proud of that, and I don't like being reminded of it all the time, especially in front of my husband. When they said those things, my husband got uncomfortable and tried to talk about something else, but they ignored him and continued making fun of me until I cried, and I know I probably sound pathetic, but I feel terrible when they say that, and I didn't like that my husband was there hearing it all. At that moment I couldn't even tell them anything other than to stop, and fortunately they did, but I don't know how long they will stop. My husband knows the things I did to get his attention, and we often joke about it, and I don't feel embarrassed when we do it because it's just between us, but it makes me feel uncomfortable that my family says it in front of him because it is as if they are treating him like an idiot for having fallen into my trap. And I don't know how to talk to them anymore, I tried so many times that I don't know what else to say. They just think that our story is funny and cute and that I shouldn't get angry. They were always like that with everything. Everything is a joke even if that joke hurts someone else, and I don't want my daughter to have to go through that, but I don't know if I'm ready to cut them off either. I mean, they're not that bad all the time, and I don't know if I'm ready to stop seeing or hearing about them. Does that make sense? Should I try to save our relationship one more time, or is it time to go no contact? If so, how can you stop feeling bad once you do it? Edit. I will clarify this only once because it seems like no one is reading what I explained in the comments. I said that I spent years obsessed because I met him at 17, at 18 I sprained my ankle so he could drive me to college, and I did stupid things like that until I started therapy at 21. From that moment on I started to control my emotions and mature, and I never tried to get his attention again. We started dating when I was 24, and by then our relationship was different because I was different. I'm almost 30 years old and it never crossed my mind to do something like what I did in the past again, and I feel ashamed about that because I know that my past behavior was not normal at all. I admit that I needed help to overcome that obsession, and I would like you to stop attacking me for having a bad time regarding mental health. Comment. Hey guys, so remember the last time we were all together and you all bullied me till I cried? It turned what should have been such a happy moment, meeting my daughter for the first time, into a very ugly memory for my whole family. You are really embarrassing yourselves, and frankly I need it to stop. Your jokes aren't funny and we've heard them all before. I want us to be close as a family, but my nuclear family needs to come first, so lay off the bullying remarks. Please show up with better manners in the future or don't bother coming. I am a wife and mother now and not someone to be ridiculed for falling in love with my husband. Then when they see this is awful. Your family are acting like bullies, and it's very mean and disrespectful. Of both you and your husband. If you decide to allow them another chance at being around you and your family, I would tell them exactly this. And I would follow through exactly like this if they say anything rude at all. Fools, next time have your husband ask them to leave. Okay guys, it's time to go. Yes, you know why, bye now, and talk later. They'll either get the message and some self-control, or force themselves into a LC relationship with you and your family. Except you meet them at a place that is not your home, so if they start, you and your family can just leave. You don't have to try to get them to leave, which could be tricky. You and your husband can discuss and plan it out beforehand. Your behavior with your husband indicates a mental health issue. It's truly sad that your family makes jokes about it, but I think it hurts you so much because you know this behavior is a symptom, not just some cute stunts you did to get a man's attention. Also, that your husband knows that you intentionally injured yourself and still got romantically involved with you is concerning. For your baby's sake, I hope you get some therapy. Your family are bullies, plain and simple, and they're not going to change. Keep yourself, your child, and your husband away from them. They like to pick at something they know embarrasses you and watch you relieve it, watch you squirm and get uncomfortable to the point that you cry, and they watch gleefully because it distracts them from their own insecurities and low self-esteem. At least one or two of them are probably jealous at the idea that you've found happiness because they can't. Your family is poison. Poison just hurts you. Stay away from poison.